Hello everyone, welcome back for another movie review here on Questrified. My name is Sarahfina.
And my name is Bray.
And today we'll be covering Psycho 2, so let's get right into it. Released in 1983, directed by Richard Franklin and written by Tom Holland, Psycho 2 is a direct sequel to the 1960 classic. It picks up 22 years after the events of the first movie, and Norman Bates, played by the enthralling Anthony Perkins, is in court as his release is imminent. However, Lila, played once again by Vera Miles, gets involved and does not want him out. Lila is now Lila Loomis, meaning that she married her dead sister's boyfriend. Does she really have the high ground here? Does she? Sam Loomis is dead in this film. Perhaps he died to get away from Lila.
And with Sam Loomis' death in this kind of all disproves how Sam Loomis from Halloween can be the same Sam Loomis from this series.
Maybe he faked his death and went on to be Dr. Sam Loomis of Haddonfield.
Or maybe he got killed by Michael Myers, I guess.
The judge has heard enough and orders a big glass of shut the hell up for Lila. Norman is released, and this is the most innocent and vulnerable that Norman is in this franchise. You are rooting for him and his new sanity. Norman will be supervised to a certain extent by his psychiatrist, Dr. Raymond, played by legend Robert Loggia. Lila tries to get the last word in outside the courtroom by telling Dr. Raymond that Norman murdering again is just a matter of time, and when he does, it will be Dr. Raymond who will be directly responsible. Okay. Something tells me she's going to eat those words. Norman returns to his house and motel. He is all set up with a swanky new job at the diner. The one that was 10 miles away in the first movie has now moved closer somehow. Norman finds a note from his mother and has a flashback to when he killed her. A young Norman is seen in the door, and the young Norman is played by none other than Tony Perkins' real son, Osgood, or Oz Perkins. Perkins was married to photographer Barry Berenson. September was a hell of a month in the Perkins family. Tony died September 8, 1992 from HIV, and Barry Berenson was killed on September 11, 2001 when her plane, Flight 11, crashed into the North Tower. Norman reports to work and meets two important women in this story. The first is Mrs. Spool, played by Claudia Breyer. She is showing him around when we hear the other important woman. She is on the phone with obvious boyfriend troubles. Mary, played by Meg Tilly, Jennifer Tilly's less successful and younger sister. I'm not a big fan of Meg Tilly, and neither was Tony Perkins. He tried to have her removed from the film as she pitched a fit for not being top billed. She also made everyone on the set miserable and even held up production. So understandable why he wanted her gone. Besides that, the movie is called Psycho 2. Psycho 2! Norman is the psycho, and this is a continuation of his story. But no, Meg Tilly as Mary, a new character, should be topped bill. Yeah, right. Norman is leaving after a hard day behind the grill and hears Mary in a fight with her boyfriend over the phone. She is upset and has no home. She's been kicked out. Norman, who just happens to own a motel, offers her a room. FOC, of course. Free of charge. They get back to the motel and Norman gets to meet the man that the hospital has put in charge of running the motel. It is none other than a pre-NYPD Blue Dennis Franz. He is playing sleazy Warren Toomey. Toomey has turned the Bates Motel into an adult motel that charges by the hour. Norman is not pleased in the slightest and fires him on the spot. Don't you rent out any more rooms in this motel. No more. Of course, Toomey is upset by this and tells Norman what he really thinks of him by throwing around names like wacko and loony. At least my customers have a good time. What does yours get, Bates? Dead! Murdered by you loony! That's so wrong. Mary stays at the house in Norman's room with a chair in front of the door, and Norman is visiting Sofa City. The next day, Norman wakes up to find Mary is already gone. He goes to work and meets up with her. She has found new lodgings. Warren Toomey comes into the diner and starts acting all weird. He is desperate to know how Norman is in bed. It is so cringy. Does Toomey want the job bad enough to try to seduce Norman and he needs to know what he likes? I don't know. I just want this scene to end. It does when Norman finds a note from his mother on the order wheel. He immediately believes that it's Toomey who put it there. He busts out of the kitchen to confront him and spots a large knife. Toomey challenges him, but Norman retreats. Later in the evening, Norman is enjoying his dinner, which consists of a toasted cheese sandwich, when Mary shows back up and states that her new living arrangement did not work out. She takes Norman up on his offer to stay there with him. She goes to take a shower and is spied on via a hole in the bathroom wall. Warren Toomey shows up and yells at Norman. He then goes to pack his stuff. Norman receives a phone call from someone claiming to be his mother. Now, the one thing about these phone conversations, people calling and claiming to be his mother, we only ever hear Norman's end of the conversation. We don't hear the mother, so we can't put like 2 and 2 together who it could be. Norman once again assumes that it's Toomey, and he calls him a bastard. This is the only time that Norman cusses across this entire franchise. A tall woman dressed in black approaches Toomey and slices him in the face with a large knife. It's over, and Dennis Franz exits the movie. The next day, Norman has quit his job and is working at getting the motel back up to par. Dr. Raymond comes by as he has heard the news. He is unsure about Norman's relationship and living arrangement with Mary. Dr. Raymond offers Mary a ride to the diner, leaving Norman alone. As he paints the motel, he sees someone in the window that his mother once occupied. He goes up to the house and then up to his mother's bedroom. It's all fixed up as if his mother was still living there. And there's another note saying, "Get that slut out of my house." He hears a noise in the attic and goes to investigate. He is then locked in the attic while 2 teens sneak into the fruit cellar. They're there to get high and to fool around.
And when you get to this point, you start to wonder, why would you want to break into this old, decrepit house? And especially since the owner is now back in the house, what gets you off in like the basement of this murderer's house?
It's a fruit cellar.
Or the fruit cellar. It doesn't make any sense why this was.
So they hear a noise in the next room, and they sneak in there, and they see a large woman dressed in black, and so they start to freak out, and they try to sneak back out. The girl gets out, but the boy, she kind of shafts him, and the window falls on his hand, and he gets stabbed to death by the large woman dressed in black. The girl takes off, leaving him high and dry, and then after the girl runs off, Mary comes home to find Norman, up in the attic, and she's like, "The door wasn't locked, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "It was locked." And he's like, "Let's go check out my mother's room, it's all fixed up, everything's back in there." And they go back in there, and it's all packed up like it was originally, so someone's messing with him. And so he's all worked up, and so she's like, "I'll make you a drink." He's like, "I have no alcohol, mother didn't allow it." So she goes, "Well, maybe Toomey left a bottle." So she goes down there, and she runs into Lila. Lila's down there because Lila heard that Mary alibied him for the young guys, for the teenagers' murder. And so she's down there to get all medieval, and Mary like, "Why are you backing him up? This could have done it. We could have had him locked up."
Which really pushes Lila into being like the worst person possible. Mary's trying to explain, it's like, he didn't do it, so he's an innocent man. Why should he deserve to be sent back so easily? "Oh, because he murdered your aunt." It's like, you went and married your sister's boyfriend after all this.
So this is the moment where you realize that Mary is Mary Loomis, not Mary Samuels, and she's Lila's daughter, and they're together trying to make him insane again. You learn who she really is. So then Norman goes into the bathroom to try to splash some water on his face or whatever, and that's when he flushes the toilet and the towel comes up, a bloody towel, and then this blood goes everywhere. Mary comes back in there and she's like, "What the hell's going on?" And she starts getting white towels to clean up this bloody mess.
And when she continues to ask, Norman starts to believe he did actually kill this kid, and he even said, "I went and I used that rag to clean up the mess, and then I threw it in there," even though he didn't actually murder anyone.
Yeah, because when he used to murder people, he would black out because he had that 2 personalities going on. He doesn't know if he's a murderer or not anymore. He could have blacked out. He doesn't know. He's willing to accept that he killed someone, but he just doesn't know. So then the sheriff knocks on the door because he's got the young girl who took off and left her boyfriend, and he's like, "I've got a little girl down there in my car who just saw her boyfriend murdered in this house." And
alibis Norman, and they went down to the fruit cellar, and there's nothing. The only thing they have to tell Norman is make sure to put a lock on the cellar doors, because some people can just break in so easily.
Yeah, and then Mary says, "I cleaned up the fruit cellar."
Which, after the whole fruit cellar lock talk, you have Norman Bates go, and he takes his eyes, looks to the side, and then moves his head after the fact.
Yeah, I'm going to include a clip of that because Norman's mannerisms in this movie are just precious. Later on we'll get to when he's talking to his psychiatrist, but he just is so precious in this. I love this movie so much. So Norman is confused because he's getting these notes, he's getting these phone calls, he's locked in the attic, his mother's room was all fixed up. He doesn't know what's going on. He believes that his mother is back. Dr. Raymond shows up and he's like, "If I can prove to you that Mrs. Bates is really dead, would you accept it?" And he shakes his head no, but he's like, "Yeah, of course."
course.
They open it and show Norman that his mother is really dead because she's in the coffin. He accepts it. Well, he tells his doctor that he accepts it. Then he goes home and he talks to Mary because the doctor filled in Norman saying, Mary is Lila Loomis's daughter and they're out to torment you.
And he proceeds to kind of confront her about that with all that's happening.
And then the phone rings, and so he's gonna show that he knows what's going on. So he's like, "Hello, Mrs. Loomis, how are you?" But then he switches it, and he starts acting like it's his mother again. At this point, you don't know if he is really believing this, or if he's doing it to torture Mary, to get back at her, because he's got a smirk on his face, when she goes and picks up the phone and acts like his mother. It's like, okay, mission accomplished. Maybe he needed to prove it to himself. Maybe that was it, and he got the proof.
After that, we pretty much see Mary go to Lila and get very angry at Lila for what Lila's doing.
For the phone calls.
Yeah, because it's like Mary is done. She's not wanting to make Norman insane, but Lila's continuing it.
Well, after the phone call, that's when they hear a noise upstairs. And so they go up, they start looking around, and Mary looks through that bathroom hole, and she sees an eye come across. So she goes and gets her gun, and she starts looking around, and Norman comes up, and he's like, "What are you doing with that?" And she's like, "Well, my mother gave it to me." "Well, yeah." He's like, "You have it because of me, the gun." She's like, "I'll check up here." And then she makes a call to Lila's room to see if she's there, or if she's at the house. And when Lila's not in her hotel room, she assumes it's Lila up there, so she puts the gun down. But while Norman is downstairs looking, he hears his mother's voice coming from the fruit cellar. So he immediately goes upstairs into his old bedroom where Mary is staying, and they lock themselves in there for the night. And that's another good performance, because he switches on a dime. He's all nervous and anxiety ridden, and then all of a sudden she's like, "No, Norman, you're not becoming confused again." And he's like, "Don't you lie to me, not you." He's turns real fast.
And he gets a sleeping bag, and he sleeps in this chair, puts his head down on the sleeping bag, and that's about all he does. Gotta be uncomfortable sleeping like that for long periods of time.
So then the next day, that's when Mary goes and confronts Lila. She tells her, "Do not come near the house anymore. It's over. She's not living for dead people anymore. Not her father, not Lila's sister, nobody. She's done. She's out."
And then if Lila ever comes and does anything to Norman again, she's gonna regret it. Which the receptionist at this hotel or whatever can hear. Except there's isn't there a band that plays?
And there's a vacuum cleaner going.
The vacuum cleaner masks a lot of it, but he kind of discerns what's actually happening there.
So Lila is not one to give up, so she tries to make another phone call, and there's no answer. So then she decides to go to the house, and she goes to the fruit cellar to get the outfit to dress up like his mom.
We're up to this point as well. Robert Loggia, or Dr. Raymond, has been tailing her to make sure he can prove that she is behind all of this.
Yeah, he wants to get to the bottom of it as well, because he wants to see Norman thrive, and these two bitches are just
ruining his life.
Norman starts murdering again. They're the ones that are going to be directly responsible. Lila's down in the fruit cellar to get the outfit to dress up like Norman's mother, and then all of a sudden,
this figure comes walking out and just walks right on up and is framed like it's Norman dressed up like his mom, and proceeds to just stab Lila right through the mouth, and one of the more gory depictions of this entire series, as she just straight up dies from a knife to the mouth, and then her body is hidden. The little
in the coal.
Yeah, and the little section of the flooring that was moved with the whole outfit is just restored.
Yeah, the outfit's put back in there with the knife and all that. The stone is put back over.
And so when they get back there, again, the whole phone call situation happens again, and Norman's talking, and when Mary takes it, it's like, "Mom, just stop it, please," and then no one's on the other end.
But Norman carries on.
Well, actually, technically, there was someone on the other end, because
Dr. Raymond, he called from the office of the motel to tell him, Lila's in the house.
And that's where they have been making their phone calls up to this point. But once Mary gets it, he immediately hangs up.
And heads up to the house.
Yes.
So Mary tries to she goes and gets the outfit, because Norman will not listen to her as Mary. So she goes and she puts on the outfit as mother and tries to get his attention. She gets on the phone, everything, and nothing.
And Norman even disappears off, and she gets so worried. Is like, "Norman, are you there?" She's very worried and starts crying and stuff from it. And then as she's all doing that, Dr. Raymond comes up from behind her, and it scares her so much. Apparently, this whole big prank that they were playing on Norman actually involved a real knife, and so she stabs Dr. Raymond, who falls off
right in the heart.
Who falls right on off and lands right onto like a railing that impales him even further with the knife.
Yeah, so she goes down there and she's like, I didn't mean to do it. I thought it was you, Norman. And Norman's like, it's all right, Mother. It's all right.
And she proceeds to like rip off the wig, and she like just rips the shirt like Hulk Hogan on you. And she's just trying to like get to Norman. As Norman walks to her, she is stabbing him constantly. Has stabbed his hands. And
then he pulls that blade.
Yeah, he grabs onto it, gets the blade through the fingers, and man, he just sounds like he's getting more and more woozy as he continues. And when he gets down to the cellar, he walks on some of the coal, and that unveils that her body is there. And he falls to the feet of Mary. Mary proceeds to almost kill Norman because
she's gonna kill him because she believes that he killed her mother.
Yeah, and when she raises the knife, she just automatically gets shot by the police as soon as they broke in.
They murderize her.
And then we cut to the police station.
Yeah, it's another trip where Norman is sitting in the police station, but this time he's not under arrest. This time they believe he's innocent. They put all the murders on to
Mary and Lila.
Yep, and they take Norman home, but Norman seems to be waiting for somebody.
Yeah, and as he's there eating his toasted cheese sandwich, and Mrs. Spool comes to the door. And when he lets her in and all that, and she says, oh, it looks like you've been waiting for something. He's like, I was waiting for someone. I just didn't know who.
And so she says, well, I'm your mother. Norma, the one he believed was his mother, was my sister. You know, I already had my troubles and was locked away, you know, before you had yours. So she's claiming to be his real mother. When in actuality, that's his aunt. That's not his real mother.
Yeah,
but she's all crazy. So
yeah, and Norman offers her tea, and he pulls out.
He poisons it.
Yeah, he poisons it, and when he gives it to her, it's like that moment right before she's about to take a sip. He seems to get up, and then he just steps back.
Then he's like
he allows it to happen.
Content, yeah.
And once she starts to feel poison and stuff, that's when he grabs the shovel and just domes her with it, breaking through the chair, and she proceeds to die from the poisoning and the head trauma she most likely inflicted to it.
So then he takes her upstairs to her room, and then at some point he taxidermies her.
And the voice of his mother continues on. Obviously.
Yep, and then he goes, there's that wonderful shot at the end where he's standing at the top of the steps. You've got the dark clouds behind him, his mother's up in the window, and he's like looking up at her, and you know it started all over again.
That all those efforts from Lila and Mary have now come to fruition. Now it's hard to gauge what Norman is nowadays.
Yeah, the part of his mother's back. So, yeah, who's to blame for Norman going insane again? Lila and Mary Loomis. It wasn't his psychiatrist. It wasn't an early exit. If they would have left him alone, he would have been fine. If Mrs. Spool would have left him alone, he would have been fine.
The Mrs. Spool thing, yeah, I bet even if she came up to him, he would be a little skeptical, though. But what Mary and Lila did to him so long, it changed him too much. And
yeah,
so,
he slipped back into that.
Yeah, it was their major fault for what happened there. And going through this movie, after you've seen it once and you know the big twist and all that about Lila and Mary are the ones behind it, Mrs. Spool is, like, believing to be Norman's mother. There are all these aspects of, like, the notes and stuff. But there's one thing that you start to question, is like, when did each one do what they did? Obviously, all the murders are done by Miss Spool, but, like, for example, at work with the whole note on that wheel.
That was Mary.
So, yeah, but then, like, Norman had it in his hand, yet he walks away, and when he goes out, I believe he throws it down or something, right?
Yeah, he drops it in the kitchen.
Yeah, and then somehow, I think, isn't Mary outside of that, though?
I think Mrs. Spool picked it up because she was in the kitchen.
But then it just makes him look more insane, which doesn't really work so well in the end of it.
Oh, you had Robert Loggia trying to be the hero and keep Norman sane. You had Lila and Mary Loomis just trying to destroy him. You had Mrs. Spool being insane on her own because she told him a lie and was killing people. But yeah, so he got the raw end of the deal in this movie. But I love this movie. I love Anthony Perkins in this movie. And it's nice that, you know, they got Vera Miles back. That they got someone from the original back. That was nice. But that was Psycho 2. Next week we'll be looking at Psycho 3, which is a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us for another Movie Monday. We will see you next week. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.